Sales is a win-win situation. She goes, when you are selling something to somebody, it's not because you're looking to get something from them. You're looking to give them the services that you have or product that you have, and they are going to benefit from it. So if you're concerned about pricing, the thing comes down to is if you're charging a higher price than somebody else, it's because you're better than them, that you can offer them more services, you can give them more benefits, and you don't have to be afraid of your price.
Super excited for this podcast today. So on this one, you better have your notes ready. You better watch the replay multiple times because you're going to get a ton of value from this. I've got Molly Klipp on here. She's got 40 years of experience in the cosmetics industry and the beauty industry. Molly, for those who might not have heard of you, go ahead and do a brief introduction.
Sure. My name is Molly Klipp, and I am an SPCP board member and a CPCP through the Society of Permanent Cosmetics Professionals. I have been in the beauty industry since 1982 and bought a Seattle cosmetic franchise in 1985 when I was 28 years old. So for those of you who are young, it's always good to know if you don't know what you're doing, it's okay. You'll learn as you go. We paid $89,000 for a franchise, moved up to Seattle with no experience at all, and said, let's do this. And for 30 years did that, built a multi-million-dollar business. In 2014, discovered permanent cosmetics. I was looking for a new career, and at 58 years old, totally shifted gears, went full-time into permanent cosmetics. I had given myself a year to get myself back up to six figures because that's what I was used to making in my other business, and I did it in 11 months due to the marketing experience that I had from my previous company. I've been doing this 8 years, doing very well. This is all I do. It's full time, and I love it. It just keeps getting better.
Yeah, when I was thinking about like what topics we were going to talk about today, I was like, well, I don't even need to have a script or any bullet points because, I've talked with you before and you have a great marketing and sales background, and, I love marketing and stuff. And so I knew that we didn't even need any bullet points. Like, whatever we're about to say, I'm sure it's going to be very helpful for the audience. So you said you had about 30 years of sales experience. Is that correct?
Probably closer to 40 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess just diving right into it, like, what would you say to someone that's like, oh, I'm having trouble selling, people tell me the price is too high, or they're saying no?
So much of what you've been teaching, Jake, has been good. One of the biggest things I have to say is you have to get educated on it. I had never sold a thing in my life. I come from a family background of professionals, doctors, nurses, engineers. Sales at my house was a dirty word. I had two uncles that were multimillionaires, and when I asked what they did for a living, and my mom would say, well, one sells golf balls and the other one lies in sheets because that's what salespeople do. So I came from that background. So I was totally a blank sheet. So when I went into selling cosmetics, I literally say, you tell me what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, and I'll do it. And I was one of the unusual ones that just said, okay, and I did it. And nobody was more surprised than me that I was really good at it. And I remember my mom saying to me, oh, you're good at sales, you should sell real estate. And I remember saying, I don't want to do real estate. I don't want to work Sundays. So I just continued to go to training. It fascinated me, learning the phrases. If this is something you're not used to doing, get a script. Literally get a script and read it. I can remember getting on the phone after talking with my husband, and I'd practice with him, and then I'd get on the phone and I didn't say anything what I had practiced because you revert back to what you're comfortable with. So if you've got to read a script, read it until it gets comfortable, and then it becomes who you are. Biggest thing that I learned in the sales, I had won a trip to Rio de Janeiro. We were in Brazil, and I was with the founder of the company. And I remember talking about that I was, sales was not, it was, to me, it was, I just still felt uncomfortable. And we were we were selling $20,000, $30,000 a month at the time. And I was doing it because of what I had learned, but I didn't ingrain it in my heart. Mm-hmm. And she said to me something I never forgot. She goes, sales is a win-win situation. She goes, when you are selling something to somebody, it's not because you're looking to get something from them. You're looking to give them the services that you have or product that you have, and they are going to benefit from it. She goes, there's a difference between a good salesperson and a bad salesperson. So that day, my husband and I were walking on Copacabana Beach in Brazil, which sounds so bizarre at the time. I was 29 years old. And I remember seeing all of the different salespeople, and they didn't speak English, and how they would come up is that they'd come with a calculator and they'd punch it and tell me the price. And I remember seeing these booths, and if you've ever been in a foreign country and salespeople come and they swarm you, trying to do it. I remember they were just trying to sell me. But then I went to this one booth, and this gentleman comes up and he says, "Oh, beautiful lady." He says, "I have a beautiful red blouse for you that would look so good on you." And I thought, he registered with who I was. He saw a color that would look good on me, so he was thinking of me. That's the difference between a good salesperson and a bad salesperson. So if you're concerned about pricing, the thing comes down to is if you're charging a higher price than somebody else, it's because you're better than them, that you can offer them more services, you can give them more benefits, and you don't have to be afraid of your price. One of the permanent makeup artists who was on the board, her comment to me, she said to me, when somebody complained about the prices, she goes, "My prices reflect my experience and my training." And you don't have to say anything else, because that's really what it is. And when you say that with confidence, they'll go, "Oh, okay, let's do it."
Exactly. So, you mentioned being 29, and I just turned 30 recently. So, if you were in my shoes, what's, one piece of advice you would give me, whether it's business or life or, whatever?
There's a lot. You've done a lot of it already. But back then, I should have gotten a bookkeeper. That was the first thing I should have gotten. My husband said, "Oh, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it." He didn't want to spend the money on it. Looking back now, both of us go, "Oh yeah, that's number one thing we should have had," and you say, when do you get a bookkeeper? When you're selling $50,000, when you're doing at least $50,000 a year in services, get a bookkeeper. Mm-hmm. It's not that expensive, and it saves you hours of time. Get yourself a business coach that teaches you how to do money. That's another thing that I did when I first started Carefree Beauty Permanent Makeup. I got a business coach, and somebody that I knew who works with women, and she specifically works on how to keep the money you make. That's her tagline, how to keep the money you make. And what she taught me was unbelievable, because it totally shifted everything, how I ran a business. It's really getting coaches for the things that you need. Spend the money that you spend, you will get back in spades. One of the things that my business coach, something that I could say to you is, and like I said, you're probably doing all this stuff, and many of you listening to this are probably doing this. I didn't. Every week I take my gross sales and I take 20% of it, and I literally put it into a total separate bank account. I have different buckets of money, mm-hmm. and so they literally go into different accounts. So one is for income tax, and then I have a 2% that I take, and that goes into a profit account, and that pays for all my vacations. And then I take, we have to pay sales tax in the state of Washington on permanent makeup, which is crazy, but we do. So I have to take that money, and that goes aside. So every week, literally, the money gets shifted around to make sure that everything gets taken care of. So when I go on vacation, my vacations are prepaid for, which is lovely. I used to put them on credit cards and pay for them afterwards. So it's done before, and I live for vacations. Doing taxes now. It's lovely to be able to pay my quarterlies, and then knowing April 15th coming up, I'm not panicking. The money's in the bank. It's all taken care of. Mm-hmm. That is something I wish I had known at your age.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, I love the idea of having different bank accounts for different purposes.
Hmm.
Because, I think, like you said, a lot of people get to that point where they need to afford something and they can't, and it might be a huge, like a great investment, but they just, haven't put the money away the right way because they're just not thinking about it. They don't have it, separated.
It's for me, it's easier. Some people can look at one bank account and say, oh yeah, you can do this and this and this.
Hmm.
For me, I also have a bank account for subscriptions and memberships. So I have a bank account for that. I also have another one for permanent makeup supplies that goes in there. So every single, when a credit card comes in, I can pay those off because I have the money already put aside for it.
That's awesome. One of my, I wouldn't call it a pet peeve, but I hate to see it, is when people just combine all their, whether it's business and personal, they just combine everything into one account. And then they're like,
Yeah.
well, I can't invest in marketing right now because I'm closing on a house.
Mm-mm.
It should be totally separate.
It's totally separate. And if you get a bookkeeper, that'd be the first thing they'll tell you is you have to have a separate checking account, a separate bank account, a separate credit card. You'll find it so much easier in the long run. And yeah, you might have a lot of different accounts, but in credit cards and bank accounts, it's easier. And everything's online now. I mean, it's not like you have to go to the bank and do different things. All you just do, you do everything online, and it's just moving the money around. It's very, very easy.
Now, do you like to use credit cards?
I will use credit cards for, when I'm purchasing supplies. For me, it's a paper trail that I can do it. Smaller amounts, I will do like debit cards. Venmo has become very popular on that. I like Venmo better because you don't have to pay the fees.
Yep.
I'd done PayPal until they started charging fees. But my bookkeeper has access to all of those accounts, so they know. And so every month I'll get okay, what's this bill for? What's this bill for? What's this bill for? And if you don't think a bookkeeper's important, my accountant literally threw a party when I told her I got a bookkeeper. Okay, so I mean, it's huge. It's huge. And this business, permanent makeup business, because I'm a solopreneur, is so much simpler than the cosmetic industry we had. I mean, we did payroll, we paid for trips and cars and, prizes. I mean, we paid for all of that stuff, inventory, we paid for employees. So, I mean, this is so much simpler as long as you set up simple.
All right, that's awesome. Let's talk about marketing now. So I know that me and you have been working together for about a year, or a little over a year now, but let's talk about before, pre-2020, when you were doing more traditional forms of advertising. What were some of the things you've tried over the years?
In the early years when we started the franchise, I did try traditional advertising, we're talking, newspaper and that stuff. And honestly, it never worked. I have done network marketing. I belong to women's groups, and I would go and meet the people. They launched my Carefree Beauty business because when I started, I still owned the franchise. And so for the first year I started Permanent Cosmetics, I was not allowed to have a website. I was not allowed to have any social media presence. I had to do it old school. So everything was in person. And my business built very quickly that way. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of outreach. And it was very easy for me to do that. And person to person is so easy to talk to people. When 2020 hit, when we got shut down, all of the networking groups totally ended. They went to Zoom, and I did try that for a while, but it's not the same. Not when you're in person. And I met you on, I was doing a panel of experts for SPCP, and you were on the panel of experts for marketers. And when we let me back up here too. I actually took courses on how to do ads on Facebook for years. Okay. I paid the money. But what the frustration was, and that you've taken that away from me, is they keep changing the rules, okay? They keep changing the algorithms. They keep changing it. And I've gotten to the point, and I think that I've learned this over the last 8 years, is that, if you pay experts to do the things they expertly do, it pays for itself. Right?
Yeah.
So whether it's a bookkeeper or a business coach or an accountant or a marketer, like you, it's like it pays for itself. And quite honestly, when you and I got talking about it, I said, all right, I'm going to take a flyer. I'm going to do this. Because to me, it's like, all right, one procedures would pay for what I pay you. Another procedure's paid for the ad.
Right.
And so I thought if I get, and I have to say my expectations were very low. I'm not going to lie, because I had not had success at any of this stuff before. So I'm being blunt. My expectations were low. If it paid for itself, I was happy. So, because it got the name out.
Yep.
Last year when we first started doing this and tweaking it, because again, I did my own social media. I did all my, did all that kind of stuff. I've taken classes on how to do it, how many times to promote, what the content should be. And quite honestly, it was just becoming overwhelming. Right. It was really literally becoming overwhelming. And so even last year, I started not posting as much. And I kept saying, I need to hire a virtual assistant so that I can make sure that my posts go out on a timely basis and they're better at it than I am. So I started putting it out there saying I'm looking for a virtual assistant. I knew there was different companies I can do. And one of my clients just said, oh, my daughter is home. She did social media for her company, and I bet she could do it for you. So started talking to her. And so I now have a virtual assistant. It pays to pay people, because the more I pay people, the more money I'm making. Last year with doing working with you, and then getting a virtual assistant, which didn't start till January of this year, my business increased 50% last year.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, that's a big jump. That's a big jump. Now this is post-COVID year, right? And even in the COVID year, and we were shut down for 2.5 months, my business increased that year, being shut down for 2.5 months. And then last year, it just went up 50%. I'm expecting it to go up even more. I'm booked out farther than I've ever been booked out before. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And, can I talk about the class we just took? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So we just did this mastermind class with Jake and Tony. And, Tony is he speaks my language. Okay. He's, sales, and he's all excited. He just reminds me of me at that age, because, being in your early 30s and, anything's possible. Yeah. Anything's possible. You can take a flyer, you can try it, you can say, hey, let's see how it works, and there's so much opening to that. So when I went into the mastermind class and, we were talking, and I'm going to be blunt, I said to Jake, I said, I could probably teach this class. I said, because I've done this and I've trained on sales for years in marketing. But I'm always open to somebody else's knowledge, because people have different experiences and education than I do, which gives them a different set of skills than I have. And I'm always like, how do I get my skill level up to create more and more and more? It used to be when I was younger that I would want to take those skills so I could do it. Now I'm getting smarter, going, okay, I want to find out the skills so I can have you do it. Okay, that is probably the biggest thing I have learned in the last 5 years, that I don't have to do it all, because I can. That's it. I mean, I've built websites, I've done the social media. I can do it all, but I don't want to anymore. I don't want to. So the mastermind class, not only taught about sales, talked about scripts, how to talk to people, how to use messenger bots, which is what Jake sets you up with so that your clients are coming, but what to say to them, how to raise your conversion rates. Looking at what I did last year, my conversion rate weren't that high. And there was just a because if somebody calls me or I talk to somebody over the phone, I pretty much have a 97% conversion rate if I'm on the phone with them. Yeah. But I was doing this all through the message bots. And just one of the things I picked up from the class was make a stupid phone consult. That was a big aha. And I've been doing it since, and I've been booking more and more appointments. So that was a really good piece. Tony talking about how to build a business, having people working with you. That's intriguing to me because of my age, and I'm 65 years old. I'm loving this. I have no intention of retiring, but I do have to think about what it is that I want to do and how do I want my next 10 years to run. And when I set my business up 8 years ago, it was with the intention of selling it eventually. And I'm already thinking about, okay, what do I do when I sell this? How am I going to still continue doing permanent makeup? I'm already working out the plans for that so that I'm not taking away from the person who I sold my business to. So all of those things are thinking. And so, just thinking about the fact of, maybe do I want to have a salon and be able to increase the value of my business so that when I do get ready to sell, it's valued at more. That was really the piece that I took out of that mastermind class.
Is that it?
Oh no, there's more. But
yeah, that's a topic a lot of people don't even think about because most people are like, how do I get clients? But a lot of people don't think about, well, in 10, 20, 30 years, how do you sell that business so that instead of walking away with nothing, you're walking away with possibly millions?
Well, and because I owned a company before and sold it, I paid $89,000 for it when I bought it in 1985, which people thought I was crazy with, and we paid it off in 5 years. Had a lot of, top ramen, but, paid it off because we didn't want to have bill. Same thing goes with this is when I started the company 8 years ago, when I came up with Carefree Beauty, all of the different taglines, all the things that we did, systemizing everything was always with the intent of eventually selling it. Yeah. Because what's the point of building a business and then just letting it go? I've talked to other permanent makeup artists that just close their doors or they just give it away. And I just want to sit there and strangle them going, what are you thinking? This has value to it. Yep. And because in this industry, there's not a lot of people who have actually done it, I believe, right. Mm-hmm. There's a handful of people who've done it right. I want to be one of those people. I like to be a pioneer of doing things that hasn't been done before. So that is, I'm still thinking about it. I gotta put it around in my mind and talk to my business coach and, figure out what's the best way to make that happen.
Yep. So, compared to my, what I would call a small fee, do you think the 50% of business increase over last year was worth it?
Oh, hands down.
I know that was a leading question, but
that was a duh. Okay. Oh yeah, Jake, it surprised me. Okay, I will be the first one to tell you it surprised me. And again, my expectations weren't high. I was just like, I just want this monkey off of my back, and I'm going to give it to you, and I'll pay you to take that monkey off of my back. The benefits I've gotten is so much higher this year, even since January, when you and I were talking about how we targeted an area, that totally shifted so much, even that little thing. Yeah. Because I was thinking it was done. I wasn't paying attention. It was my fault because I wasn't paying attention. And so when we targeted the cities of the area I'm around, no longer do I get the people going, oh, it's too far to come. Well, I have such a large area around me with so many people, so many brows, so many lips, so many people and just not enough time to do them.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about targeting. I mean, you can get as specific as like zip codes or 1 mile radius. Like a lot of people think you just have to put out this big umbrella and hope for the best. But, targeting is super important.
Yeah, because if you target too wide and you're having people contact you who don't know you, okay, so I can get a referral from, 300 miles away and they'll come to see me. But it's a referral I get. If I've got somebody cold, 300 miles, they're not even going to look at me. Okay. And even, 50 miles away, somebody who I don't know and it's just cold lead, they're not necessarily going to look at me. But if it's within a 25-mile radius, oh yeah, they will.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't think about the difference between cold traffic, which, we define that as people who don't really know who you are, have never heard of you, versus, a referral. And they treat them the same, but you can't treat those people the same. No. And then I think a follow-up question would be, well, why do you want cold traffic if they've never heard of you? Well, if you're not doing cold traffic and warming them up and nurturing them and eventually turning them into hot leads, you don't have a predictable sales machine. Referrals are great. We all love referrals, but you can't rely on those.
No, you can't, because, it comes down to a point of, like I have certain, what I call business partners who, and I have two locations I work out of. So one, I'm a solopreneur in there. The other one, I work out of a hair salon. Mm-hmm. So I have 18 people in there that are totally building my business. I've done over half of them, and they are always feeding me leads. Okay. But I can't necessarily count on that because it's whether it's the whim or whether they're going to tell me or not. Last year, I got 137 referrals. Okay, here's the other thing I would tell people: get yourself systemized.
Yep.
That's the other piece. You've got to get yourself systemized so that you can be able to pull up the reports that you need to be able to educate you to what you've got to change. So for me, it was 137 referrals. I send out a thank you card. I use Mailbox Power. I send out a thank you card and brownies to every single person who sends me a referral, and they get $50 off their next procedure. They work harder for the brownies than they do for the $50. I started doing that COVID. So during COVID, I went back a whole year of anybody who'd sent me referrals, and I sent out thank you cards with brownies. Oh my gosh, the response I got was hilarious. So now it's like, okay, where's my brownies? I mean, it's hilarious, but that worked more than the $50. Sending out anniversary cards, so a year after that goes in there. If somebody who's a referral partner to me in November, I usually get this huge goodie basket that I get from Costco, and I take it to them. And on Vistaprint, I get credit cards made that says $50 off, and I hand those out to the people so they can hand it to their clients. But the conversion rates, I was just counting up, and I haven't done that today, but since January, I have had 30, I don't even know how many total leads, but I've turned over 30 people into appointments since January 1st. Now that's a lot. I'm really happy with that. And it might be even more now. I was going to count the numbers. I didn't have time this morning, but that to me, says a lot. And because once I get them in the door, Jake, I got no problem.
Right.
I'm a people person, and I can talk to you and find out about your mother, your sister, your aunt, your cousin, tell me your entire life history. We will be best buds by the end of it. Okay. That's easy for me to do because I love people and people fascinate me. So, if that's not a skill you have, you need to learn it.
Yeah.
Okay. In my sales career, when I first started, I didn't know what to say to people I didn't know. So I learned to ask 5 questions. So it was like, how do you know, how did you find out about me? Then are you married? Do you have children? Do you have grandchildren? Where do you work? Any one of those 5 questions will come up and they will talk your ear off, and they will tell you their entire history. Now I mark that stuff down in my, so if somebody's, they're going on a vacation, I will mark that down so that when they come in the next time, I can say, how was your vacation to Peru? Those are some things. People want to know you care about them. Mm-hmm. They want to know that you see them as a person, not just as a paycheck. Yep. When I was learning how to do permanent makeup, I remember going to 2 top trainers, and I'm not going to name names, but they're 2 top trainers. And I remember sitting there, and I went in to talk to the model that we were going to work on, and I did all the stuff I do. Started asking questions, doing all this other stuff, and got to know who the person was, and found out the girl, the whole thing. And so when the trainer came in to do it, she didn't talk to the girl at all. She had nothing to say to her. And so afterwards, I said to her, well, when do you talk to these people? She goes, I don't want to talk to them. She goes, I don't want to know anything about them. She goes, they're in here to get their eyebrows done, and that's all they care about. Mm. And I'm like, I don't think so. That just, it's got to be the whole package, because they're going to come back to you for that. They're not just coming back to you because you're an awesome artist. They're coming back to you because they like you and they want to be you. They will refer people to you because they like you. Yep.
I mean, and that's one of the things we talked about in the mastermind is like, even if you're not a people person, even if you're, what we call introverted, or you don't have time to talk to a lot of people, you can but you can systematize that and, have an assistant that really helps you along with that. Yep.
Because you're right. If it's not you, you could have somebody asking all those questions as they come in, because they've just got to have this is women we're dealing with. Okay. Women want warm fuzzies. They want to feel good. They want to feel like they're welcome. When people come in for color boost now, we're finding out about the family and what they're doing. I send out a newsletter every single month too. And in the newsletter, it could be a beauty tip. It could be, it might be about my family. It might've been about a trip. It might be, anything. So they get to know who the real me is. And that's what you got to do, is you got to open yourself up. Because if you're in business and you're working with people one-on-one, they want to see who you are. not just what you can do,
Yep.
but who you are. Now, granted, you got to be good at what you do. You got to be skilled. You got to continue to get training. Every 6 months, I'm going to another training. These are some of the things that people look for, that you're a learner. Class I took, I've taken so many. Are you a learner or are you a non-learner?
Yep.
If you're a non-learner, you're toast. But if you are continually soaking up information to say, what do I do? How do I learn? How do I get better? There's no limit as to what you can do and where you can go. I mean, I shifted careers at 58 years old and, got to a 6-figure income in 11 months. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Yeah.
And that's a great point. Luckily, if you're still watching this, you are a learner. But there's so many people I see, I see thousands of people every year. And, the difference between people who succeed and don't are the ones who are hungry to learn, hungry to grow. Because if you're not hungry, somebody else will be for your business.
That's right. That's right. Even with COVID, I look to, my business increasing, with COVID going on. And where I'm looking at is that the people who didn't make it are the ones that didn't continue to learn. They didn't continue to develop. I train as well, fundamental training, and seeing the people that work with me. I mean, I spend a day with them on business, and not just bank accounts. I mean, all the stuff we talked about in this, I talked to them about. But you've got to develop and continue to develop your people skills, your sales skills. It is a sales job, but we've been in sales since the time we put ruffled panties on when we were kids. We've been selling since then, so nothing changes.
Yeah, in a way, I know the pandemic was tough, but I think it gave people either an excuse to have more time to do what they need to do, or an excuse to, be lazy and sit around and feel bad for themselves and watch Netflix. And I saw both sides of that coin. I saw one artist who was on lockdown in the UK for over 6 months, but she spent time developing herself, creating more content, getting really good, building her brand. And now she's booked out almost, 6 months now just because of that time she put in last year.
Yep. And, that's the good people. You're right. Those are the ones that's exactly what they did. They found that as a really good time, because we don't normally get that moment in time to do that. Yep. So, that was a gift in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So last question, let's say that, I'm an artist. I recently started, I invested a lot of money like you do into training and stuff. And I'm discouraged. I don't really have any clients. What's your advice to them?
I would say, first off, decide what your goals are. You have to decide what you want. And is it, the first thing is you can't just say, I want clients. You got to say, how many procedures do you want to do a week? Is it 2? Is it 4? Is it 6? Is it 15? Is it 20? And, my goal was 20. That was my goal, and which I'm there now. But when I started, it started off at 2 to 4 a week. And then once I hit that, then it was 4 to 6. You do it in increments. And then 4 to 6, and then 6 to 8. And so you build it up in increments so that that you are building it and you've got a reason. Now, to build it, you got to decide. Are you willing to spend the money to get the people? And are you willing to do the work? Because we can pay you, Jake, to do this, but if we don't do the follow-up and take care of the leads we have and do what we're supposed to do and learn the skills of what to say, then the money we spend was worthless.
Right.
So you have to decide, are you willing to do the things that's going to be able to build your business, and do you believe you can do it? Because if you believe you can do it, nothing will stop you. If you're hoping that it's going to happen, maybe it will.
Yeah.
But you got to understand that those of us who've made it successfully believe from the get-go that all we had to do is X, Y, Z, and it would happen. You have to believe that you will. If you do the things you're supposed to do, then it will happen. And if it doesn't happen in the timeline, what coach are you going to get you to the next level?
Yep. And that's all. That's my answer to people that ask, well, is it guaranteed that I succeed? And I ask, well, nothing in business or life is guaranteed, but I know that it is a proven process, and if you put in the work, you will succeed.
Right. You got to systemize stuff. That's what makes us valuable. The more systemized we are, and a lot of us in this industry are artists, and I'm kind of one of those weird ones. I'm an artist, but I'm a salesperson and I'm a geek. So, I mean, I've got all levels of it because of what I've done. Mm-hmm. If you're just an artist and you don't see, it's because there's a different level. One of my friends she's totally an artist, does not think linear at all with me. She kind of laughs at me when she talks to me because, I think on a whole different level than she does. But she's got somebody in her back pocket that thinks like I do, and I talk to him. to help her business. So if you are not in that zone and that's not what you are, get somebody who's going to come alongside you who can think like that and do that for you.
Yeah, that's great advice. Like, don't do the journey alone. Like, even me, like I've had some success the past few years, but I brought on Tony to, me and him are friends, and I talk to him on the phone all the time just because he thinks a little bit different than me, and it gives me good insights that I don't normally think of on my own.
Yep. And you got to have those. You got to have those other people because they get your wheels going.
Yep.
And it gets you thinking at a different level than you were thinking before.
Awesome. Well, I think this has been a value-packed podcast, so I appreciate you joining me today. Do you have any?
This is fun.
Yeah, it was. Do you have any closing thoughts?
I would just say decide what you want and don't take it in huge bites. Let's say that you want to, sell $100,000 in revenue this year. You got to break it down to $8,333 a month.
Yep.
And then you got to break that down to what is it per week? And then it breaks down to is how many days a week are you working? So how much is that per day? You got to break it down into bite-sized pieces. You can't eat an elephant all at one time. You got to do it a bite at a time. So break it down because you'll get 8 months down and not hitting your goal. And the reason why you haven't, because you haven't broken it down, by month, by week, by day.
Yep, exactly. It's like I tell everyone, if you just get 1% better each day, then in 365 days in 1 year, you'll be 37 times better in that aspect.
Right.
So,
That's
all
right.
With that, we're going to close it out. Thanks again, Molly. And if
My
they want
pleasure. It's been fun, Jake.
if they want to follow you on social media, what's the best platform?
They can follow me Facebook or Instagram. It's Carefree Beauty, so it's carefree _ beauty PMU on Facebook or Instagram, and then Carefree Beauty PMU on Facebook. I'd love to hear from just comments. Ask any questions. Feel free. I've got years of experience and all the things I've done wrong that I could be able to help you through some of the things to get you through right.
Yeah, for those watching or listening, I'll say Molly is super awesome, so don't hesitate to reach out to her. I know she has. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Molly, or consume your time, but I know that you have a heart of a teacher, and so I know everyone can learn a lot from you, and I know they've already learned a lot from you today. So, all right, thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, bye.
Bye.